Welcome back to another episode of The Download with Joe. As always, here with Joe and myself, Lewis, co-founder of Element 6. We've got a bonus episode today, timely because Joe and I were heading out to a conference which our guest is heading up. So without further ado, Richard, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate it.
So we normally do introductions separately, but for everyone listening, give us the 30,000 foot overview as to who Richard is and what you're working on.
Yeah. So thank you again, Lewis and Joseph. And getting to the point, I serve as a bridge builder between industries. My background started in enterprise technology, and I've grown as far as from an experience perspective through the digital age, leading up to digital transformation. But today, my world connects two ecosystems, commercial real estate and facility management. I've spent the last few years helping these sectors speak a common language, not just through technology, but through shared data, collaboration, communication. And my unique role today serves two organizations. I'm sure we'll get into those here in a moment, but I lead a digital strategy for ConnexFM, and I'm the CEO and executive director for OSCRE International.
So for anyone listening who don't understand or haven't heard of Connex and also OSCRE, break both of those down and give us an idea as to how they're converging as to high level.
Yeah, so ConnexFM stands for Connecting Facility Managers or Facility Management. It's really a community or a heartbeat of the facilities management world. It's a place where professionals come together from different parts of that industry. Could be retailers, suppliers, folks like that. We have different events and various forums where they can come and collaborate and just work on raising standards together in the facility management world. OSCRE International is very unique in that it was born out of the UK, and today it's based in Irving, Texas, alongside ConnexFM. And OSCRE International has gained a lot of respect over the years as far as a data standards organization, and they are making sure that they understand how the built environment can communicate digitally. So bringing both of these two worlds or these ecosystems together to align with community and technology and people and standards, this will help make digital transformation practical, not theoretical, across the industry with commercial real estate and with facility management.
We're going to dive into the digital infrastructure piece because I think it's so important, especially when you're looking at what Connex is doing across multi-site and also OSCRE, which, as you said, has been around for many years now. For those who haven't met you before or won't know much about you, they won't have known that you didn't necessarily come from the industry. So how did you find yourself to be a part of Connex and then eventually take on another role within OSCRE?
Yeah, so over the course of my experience, I've worked in various industries, commercial real estate being one of them, financial services and management. I grew up as a young man working with tools and with trades and learning that along the way. And it was really neat when this opportunity came about to be what I call an assembler or a bridge between these two worlds. Is in the facility management world, there's a lot of data that's being used and being leveraged. In the commercial real estate world, there's also a lot of data that's being used there. And historically, CREtech, what we call CREtech, FM Tech, have been two different ecosystems that have been running day-to-day simultaneously. And the tools and systems between the two organizations, I noticed, weren't getting the full holistic view of all the data that's being captured from what I call cradle to grave of a facility or building. So getting into this industry and taking a look again at what these two ecosystems are doing in the industry of facilities and what I call the built environment, my goal is to bridge them. And because the future isn't just smart buildings, it's connecting organizations, ownership, operations, occupancies, energy and sustainability have become really huge. And all of these things need a digital foundation. And the foundation of digital technologies and how it's involved, of course, is data and how we manage that data and how that data is processed into information.
Yeah. When you look at those two worlds,
Yeah.
they've always been kind of involved in the same ecosystem to the extent that we're talking about buildings, we're talking about operating the buildings, managing the buildings, delivering an environment. Any just observations on historically why they've been a little bit detached? Bringing data together is a great foundational piece to bring them together.
Yeah.
Not to repeat myself, but yeah, like observations, especially as a kind of, coming into this industry with a fresh set of eyes. Any thoughts of why there's been that divergence or separation?
That's a great question, Joe. And I was thinking about that actually, and I put a lot of thought into it over my time at ConnexFM and OSCRE International. And I've realized that it's not really one person or one organization or the industry's fault. What has happened over the course of the past, I will say, 30 years, that's where most of my technology experience is born out of. And I'll get a little more into that here in a bit. But what I have noticed is digital technology technology in general has advanced so fast that a lot of organizations are so focused on making sure that they're bringing in the revenue, the ROI for their organization, and focused individually on what they're doing, but not being able to have the ability to share that data as data has been collected over the years. You have GCP, which is Google Cloud Platform, which you have big data that's grown over the years through different devices, through mobile, through sensors, through all these digital asset tracking that we're doing now today. It's really hard to bring all this data together because it's all over the place. So I think having a standard and understanding that and bringing that data back together, I think will be better for the organization. Historically, I don't believe anyone thought they would go sort of in separate directions or what I call siloed. And I think over the years, that's just happened through an organic way of how organizations have evolved and also digital.
Yeah. I mean, inertia is powerful, right? I think that's probably a obvious point. It's across all industries, but I noticed in our industry, you do have a lot of inertia, and sometimes getting people to kind of change how they think about doing a job or reaching a goal. Sometimes it's fighting the inertia of how it's been done.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And our hope, and Lewis mentioned here, second is a conference that's coming up we'll get into, is to bridge together through the built environment.
So we'll obviously talk about that in more detail, but with Connex, you have multiple conferences or events, pretty large scale as well. I think there was one that just took place. With what Connex do in the multi-site space, and then obviously what you're doing with OSCRE merging or collaborating as two organizations, and again we can dive into that. Why is now the right time to build a new conference?
Yeah, I think the biggest reason for me and what I've seen is I've brought up the connectivity or the collaboration between the two ecosystems, and I think in order to be able to leverage AI and be able to use that in a way that will grow the industry outside of technology is to just bridge those two worlds together. ConnexFM, through their events in the facility management world, historically, they have not had much insight in the commercial real estate world. So the way I look at it, and when I came in and coming from outside this industry, in particular into the CREtech and FM tech world, is I noticed that a lot of organizations were staying focused with their own personal data and not sharing the data. So over time, these data repositories that are there have actually gone in their own direction. So it's really hard to compare things apples to apples when everything's apples to oranges. And I noticed that coming in, and that's why I've been taking a look at trying to figure out a way to align the vision of what facility leaders and facilities teams do in retail. And the suppliers on the ConnexFM side at these events come in and they're trying to figure out ways to make things better for example, a retailer and helping the retailer build out their business. But technology's become such a big part of it, it's hard to maintain focus all the time on what you're trying to do from a revenue perspective because both things are running at the same time and it's really hard to keep those in alignment. So with ConnexFM and OSCRE International, ConnexFM being the community and the platform, which we just had our mid-year event here in Dallas, Texas, and it was a phenomenal event, bringing some of the folks from the different parts of the world together to be able to discuss these values and these directions of what we want to do in order to build a digital infrastructure for the future. And that's why I think the time is right now, because the digital world is commanding that we do that in collaboration with each other.
I think collaboration is a key word. And with ConnexFM and OSCRE, let's dive into why now is the right time for a collaboration like this to take place. Like, talk us through your vision when you came into Connect, why it now makes sense, and what this means, because this will lead us into a couple of nice segues around the data infrastructure and fragmentation that you're working on.
Yeah, so give a little history about OSCRE International. I mentioned that they were born out of the UK. OSCRE International, for almost 30 years, has been a reputable standards organization around data and governance for commercial real estate companies across the world. And with that said, a lot of the data structures, or the data, I'll call it a data blueprint, that they have put together is something so critical for these commercial real estate companies that I think the future of that is going to even require even more collaboration, not only from a digital perspective, but across other ecosystems across the industry of the built environment. Hence, ConnexFM and the facility management world. Another big part of it too is energy and sustainability has become a huge part in what we're trying to do, with so many focused individuals, organizations, or from a political point of view across the globe, making sure that we're using our energy wisely, right? And making sure that we're building out structures that actually are more efficient, and that we're able to understand how that data can be used to make that actually happen. And just in the course of over time, we have had so many different types of assets in the facility management world come about, with sensors to HVAC and different other assets that retailers use to be able to manage their business. They're collecting more data again. So through the course of time that I mentioned earlier, of all these different devices collecting data, all this data is being collected, but in the built environment, it's really hard to have a high level overview of what is actually happening from the very beginning of a facility to the very end. So I'm a big proponent of the building life cycle management, and I am wanting to make sure that we are able to not only see what's happening now, but what we'll be able to see in the future, and leveraging AI tools like that to be able to generate a vision of what can be.
Yeah, and I guess, when we think about AI, I think a lot of the barrier, we've talked about organizationally, there's some fragmentation, data fragmentation. Really, the data readiness piece, I think, is what may be stopping us from deploying more advanced technology. I think the more and more you talk to individuals who are trying to deploy technology, there's this kind of front end of, I'm not ready. They don't always say I'm not ready, but data readiness does, we could have a debate, is it the organization or is it the data that's the frictional point to get you from where you want to be? They're probably both, but if you have to prioritize them.
Yeah, and I think yep, you're correct. And I think it is both. And I think it's also the data maturity, right? Within an organization, as organizations start out. And I'm not even going to say it's easier for a young organization versus an older organization. I think it's leadership. I think it's a culture mindset. I'm big on that, and making sure that the organization understands how important data governance and standardization is, and making sure that they have a good foundation, because anything you do in life requires a strong foundation. And data is the core of what artificial intelligence is. So making sure that there's good data integrity, there's good data hygiene, and making sure that we're managing that appropriately is going to be very important in what we're trying to accomplish with the future of the built environment.
What's just from the Connex side, what's the appetite for the owners, the occupiers, the tenants that go to your show, or even the facility managers that go to your show, for adopting technology around data aggregation and being able to utilize that data? Because we've seen, Joe and I, over the last few years, definitely some progress within corporate commercial real estate, but there still seems to be a lag in terms of we have to take action, we have to adopt technology in order to use this data.
So part of my role in coming into ConnexFM is when I joined the organization, they said, we're not looking for just another technologist. We're looking for a digital strategist. And we're looking for someone that can actually help us understand how digital technologies will impact the facility management world. So my goal with ConnexFM, and I've been there for a couple of years now, is building out and championing the understanding of digital technologies, the transformation of that technology, and understanding data. So ConnexFM and the facility management world have a very strong appetite for data, specifically around what we call benchmarking and understanding the different aspects of the facility management lifecycle, how organizations deal with occupancy and deal with safety and energy and usage, and making sure those metrics are understood. So the appetite for that is very strong, and there's a lot of data out there, but consolidating that data, and I've been in IT for many years, and bringing that data together through different types of aggregation, migrations, whatever it is, bringing that data together has made it really complicated for someone to come in and bring that together. So what we're trying to do at ConnexFM, and the appetite that the facility managers have for having more data, is explaining to them that we need to have an open mind and looking out at the rest of the industry, other ecosystems like the commercial real estate world, and making sure that we're also understanding what they're doing. And then through networking and through different events like we had recently in Dallas, is allowing those folks from the different parts of the ecosystems to come together and have these discussions about what they're seeing in the industry. And also, too, times are changing. A lot of trade skills and those folks that we've had for many years are now close towards the end of retirement. So there's new generations that are coming in, and they're hungry for leveraging data and mobile technologies, and understanding these generational gaps is another big part of what I do as an assembler and bridging these two worlds.
You could argue there's like the data piece that we talked about, there's the organizational piece we talked about, and those I think have, I guess I'm going to make a point, and I'd love for you to respond and just tell me what you think. Those have both been issues for a while, although maybe like the data piece is more apparent now because there's just a lot more opportunities to take your data and really take action on it. But the labor shortage piece is a little bit slower moving. And I think if you went 10 years ago, it wasn't really an issue, or it wasn't on the top of mind. And now it really is an issue. Though I don't have a great sense of, is it like industry kind of like red alert, or is it just I'm seeing a reduction in available talent for me to go hire? But that's the third one maybe that is coming into becoming a catalyst, if you will. I guess I'm interested in your feedback on like how much of a catalyst is that compared to organizational, alignment, data, readiness, and then that third one, labor availability.
Yeah, I believe in what I have seen over the course of my experience is that a lot of folks for I'll say, let's go back again, 30 years is what I'll focus on. Folks who are more interested in being accountants, CPAs, doctors, lawyers, which are all great professions, don't get me wrong. So they spend a lot of their time going to universities and doing that. So those reviewed as what I like to phrase the sexy jobs, where it's in the trade skills, the plumbers, the engineers working behind the scenes, those folks working with their hands and building out solutions for these facility management organizations weren't really what people wanted to do. So there's that gap of 15 to 20 years in there that we don't have any kind of input from folks wanting to learn these trades. And now we're in a situation to where there's a shortage of those folks. And I don't think it's been the industry. I just think it's just the way our perception has been as human beings and what the world is doing. And so now what I've noticed at some of these events that we have for ConnexFM, we're starting to get a new generation. At this last event I was at, I met someone who was 19 years old, super excited about getting in the industry, energetic. And it was good to see the older generation with the younger generation coming together. And they were coming together, and they really wanted to help him out. And I thought it was a beautiful thing. That's why I'm so big on communication, collaboration, networking. I think these are all critical before you can even start looking at technology.
So just on the FM piece, where would you say in the Connex community you're on in terms of the education mindset shift across FM?
Yeah. We had an event last year, and we had a speaker. His name is Mike Rowe. He's a celebrity that did a series on TV where he talked a lot about dirty jobs. And and he talked a lot about too much focus being put on what four-year universities offer versus trade schools. And I think what his message was to actually, he wants to encourage that next generation into trade schools to be able to provide the education and the training needed. Now, what I think needs to happen beyond that, and I think Mike is working through this through his organization, is what we want to be able to do is give them that training so that way they can have it and build that out, but also the practical application behind that. And there is years of experience from folks who've been in the FM world and in the commercial real estate world that may not be there much longer. And all that knowledge is going to disappear. Where's it going to go? So I think one of the biggest things that that OSCRE has done over the years, and what we are doing, is there's 30 years of data governance and standardization that's been consolidated over the years. You can't go to ChatGPT or Gemini to be able to write in there and say, give me all the different entities and relationships across the commercial real estate industry and FM world over the past 30 years. No, that requires hard work, effort, and time that people have to put in to do that. So those things, I think, over time get lost. The knowledge that's there needs to be captured. If it can't be captured quickly enough through the next generation, through them learning the trades and the knowledge behind the facility management world, then we need to figure out how to make data and technology available for those folks to be able to learn.
Without doubt. We're seeing, I'm the chair of a company similar to Mike Rose, and they do phenomenal work in getting access or providing access to people who may never have even thought of getting into trades, getting them training in controls, building automation, then finding them jobs. There just needs to be more effort around that, because as you said, in the next 5 to 10 years, whether you look at FM and commercial real estate or smart buildings as separate industries, they both, or three, intertwine, and we are going to lose an incredible amount of knowledge.
Yeah. It's a race. That's the way I look at it. And it's a race for gaining that knowledge and understanding. So there needs to be a lot of focus put on that. And I think bridging the ConnexFM and the CREtech world is a part of that, and what ConnexFM is doing, and leveraging the blueprint that OSCRE's developed over the years of how to store that data, how to manage that data across a facility or a commercial piece of property. And that's going to be really critical. And I think that will help us and be a catalyst for making it much simpler, I think, for the newer generation. And I'm going to say, and I'm not the new generation, but what I will say is, Thank you. I appreciate that. But they grew up in AI. They're growing up in AI. They grew up in technology. I've watched it evolve over the years, and I understand technology, but only because I've spent my career working, and I'm gonna even say my life working in what technology does and how it helps people communicate and collaborate. And I just think if we can just spend the time and take the time to speak to the next generations that are coming up and teach them not only about the data and the technology, but also about how the business and how people work and operate through networking. That's critical.
I was going to say, do you think that part of our issue, when you think about new talent, I can't tell you how many times new talent coming into the industry, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to somebody who's been in the industry for 10, 20, 40 years, their career has been in real estate, and maybe that's any part of real estate. And there's oftentimes a point of, I just sort of fell into this industry. I really like it. I'm glad what I'm doing. There's a lot of value I'm providing. I'm getting a lot out of it, but it wasn't as intentional. I flip that around to a lot of the points you're making, Richard, and I think, is discovery part of the issue, right? Like, there are people who would love to be in this industry, but perhaps they're not even aware it exists. Obviously, everything you've talked about fits in with that, like being more public, having more opportunities to engage, collaborate, interact, learn. I wonder if that if you found that to also be true, that sometimes just the discovery is part of the issue.
I didn't even know it existed in the built environment.
This industry.
This industry.
Yeah.
I knew it was out there. I've worked in commercial real estate, but more from managing data for a specific company in of itself, but not the industry as a whole. And just to provide a little more insight into ConnexFM and OSCRE International, they're both association organizations with members. So a difference with that from my previous background, which was in consulting, is that we had clients. And a member can be a client, but it's, if you want to call them a client, but members and associations have all this information and all this knowledge. I didn't know it existed the way the network, I'm going to say the network existed. I knew the industry existed, but I didn't understand the network. And I think when I came into it and how it evolved for me is I started out in trades as a young man. I went to school. And, but, working with my father, he taught me how to do different trades, skills, and developing those over time. But back then I looked at the sexy job and I said, I think I want to become a CPA. I'm going to become a CPA. That's what I want to do. So I went to business school and I learned something called SQL programming early on. And, it was in the early years of understanding Transact SQL. And I realized that I had a knack for it. It was so new in the late 90s that when it was brought about, database repositories and structures, I became an expert in it across the globe. And I forgot all about the trades world. I forgot all about the commercial side of things and how facilities were being managed. Full circle back to where I'm at now, taking what I learned when I was younger and then all the technology experience that's there. That's why I have a passion for making sure that we continue what's been built over the past 30 years in these industries and continue that forward and progress it. So we have a big responsibility. I have a big responsibility as a professional.
We all do. We all do. I think the challenge when you speak or when I speak to individuals similar to us, but maybe in different parts of the space, they all understand how important the trades are in this industry. The challenge are when you speak with individuals like you or myself, we're all believers already. So we're not getting the message out and we don't have the right channels in order to get the message out into the masses. So what happens is you end up having this echo chamber where we need to do more, but we have all this energy and time and potentially resources to deploy, but perhaps not the right avenues that we've found. And it may be a big, bold idea, but I've always thought that whether it be FM, whether it be smart buildings, whether it be prop tech, you almost need a marketing consortium who represents the industry that could then promote what this industry is all about. Because when you think about real estate, you think leasing, you think buying real estate, or maybe you think about residentials, but you don't think about all of the intricacies around technology, facilities management, property management, mechanical systems. And I think, going back to my point, we all have a responsibility to tell that story better.
Yeah, we do. We have a huge responsibility. I think making sure we have the right channel, as you put it, to be able to educate folks on that. I think a lot of organizations and MIT thought through this, and I thought it was really a good idea. This was probably 10 years ago, is the classroom's not going to be in books anymore. They took a library, they condensed it down to one laptop. You can learn everything online. You can learn everything through a computer, but you're not going to learn how to apply that unless you go out into an organization, or an organization works with the school to actually take a set of students and take them out there so that way that they can learn and they understand. And I mentioned responsibility, and that we all have that as organizations. There's a corporate social responsibility that we have also, bridging that for the future. Good point, Lewis.
Yeah,
agreed.
It's a bit off topic, but it's funny. In our town, they just opened a new library a week or two ago, and there's now 5 libraries. And our town is, a town of like 120,000 people, so like 5 libraries is quite a bit. spread across. But it's funny because I think the way libraries, they do have books there. I actually find that I read more ebooks than actual books, but it's nice sometimes to get a book. But they're definitely becoming, this is not the term I've heard, but it's like a multimedia center plus a community center plus a learning area, right? Yeah. So like our kids will go and engage in activities there, and they have like a maker space at one of the, or actually more than one, but we go to the one close to us. My son is like building stuff, or building stuff together. And so it's interesting that you say that it's not just about the books, though you can get the books if you want them. So
I can read about it all.
The times are changing, I guess is my point.
Yeah, the times are changing.
Exactly. And I think with data and AI, it's only moving quicker. So with OSCRE, they're known for having a rich history within data infrastructure and integrity. With so many years around this and what's to come, I'd love to just get your sense, and we can talk about this, about the evolution of the data model and where you think we need to go.
Yeah. So the data model I mentioned it existed for almost 30 years. It's a compilation of all these entities, all these relationships around what you mentioned, Lewis, all around commercial real estate, right? I'm not going to repeat it for everyone because they know around leasing, energy, sustainability, occupancy, usage, all the different aspects of a commercial real estate property. And I think where OSCRE needs to go, and I strongly feel, I'm strong about this because this is where we are headed as an organization for OSCRE International. Is we've got the data model, we've got the blueprint, and I'm going to go back again to early years, and it's still used logical data models, which this is similar to a logical data model. They're great. They're great. They were great for SQL Server, for Oracle, for Sybase, for these large data warehouses that were being built that now we know them as data lake houses and data lakes through cloud platforms that are offering these different types of data repositories. But just like that, just like I said, how data is being stored today and how data repositories have changed over time and how digital technologies have come about, just having a data model that's not intelligent isn't enough anymore. Just having entities and relationships in a model or in a format that you read and go through isn't enough anymore. We need to be able to leverage technology in a way that we can understand the ontology of the data model, the semantics behind it, and actually leveraging, let's say, AI. Everyone's using AI to be able to interpret things. Let's even get a little deeper. Symbolic AI could be used to look at these models and build that out. So when I came on at OSCRE, I spoke to the organization and I said, I think you have a great industry data model, a wonderful IDM that you've compiled over the years. But let's look at the next gen and let's make it an intelligent data model. It's still an IDM, but let's make the data model more intelligent.
So let me put my devil's advocate hat on, because it can be quite a divisive topic when you talk about data models. We've got Brick, we've got HageStack, we've got Real Estate Core. Why do we need OSCRE?
Because do those organizations or have those organizations worked with commercial real estate companies for the past 30 years and gathered information across the globe? Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But what I've run into when I have discussion with folks from those organizations, they have a keen interest in what OSCRE has done because they have all the technology and they have all the platform needed to do what I'm talking about. But to have the source at the very root of it, of what these commercial real estate companies have been doing over the past 30 years, they don't have all of that. They have bits and pieces of it. So it's really complicated for those organizations to be able to do that without someone like OSCRE coming in and offering an opportunity to be, hey, you want to be a part of this network that we have of commercial real estate organizations. Let's work together to make things better for our CREtech organizations, our commercial real estate companies. But I think it's really more of a process as OSCRE was ahead of the game, starting out in the UK, building that out for HACT, for all these different organizations, becoming a standard. And that's the goal of what we're trying to do here also in the US is to be able to become a standard for what organizations are using. So it's from a little bit different perspective. We're not trying to compete against those organizations. We respect those organizations. We want them to be partners. But OSCRE's mindset is to make sure that what we're doing is we're creating a culture of how this data can be stored and how it can be used. And moving forward, this culture needs to be more advanced in technology and how it's used.
Who would use the standard versus the current ones out there?
Yeah, from my perspective, a lot of folks that would use this standard, I'm going to go back to ConnexFM and the facility management world because that's important. I've talked about OSCRE, and OSCRE's most focused has been over the past 30 years around commercial real estate. Not to say they haven't done anything in the facility management world, but facility management organizations are running into situations to where they may have a facility that they have a manager who's operating a real retail store there, and they're calling the facility leader and they're saying that, hey, I've got a leak in my store and I don't know what you guys can do about it. Can you help me? They're like, I don't know what this leak is. I've never heard of it. Nobody has had the same issue that you have. A month later, they have coffee with their friend who works for the other retailer. They're talking. I've had leaks too, and they gave me the same story. All this information is what they do, is what they store in what's called a CMMS tool. And these tools actually can record and keep track of all these different work orders. However, these tool sets speak different, I'll say, ontology standards and languages. Yes, is really what it is. So there's no way to compare apples to apples. It's really hard to do that. Having more governance and standardizations and getting organizations to understand that this is really important is going to be critical for us to be able to manage these facilities better. But there's a practical use case in the facility management world of what I've seen.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things I've been covering a lot in the newsletter, and a lot of listeners will probably be aware of this as well, but the data coming out of buildings, the base building systems, of which building automation is a very big part of that.
Right.
There have been definitely some moves at the strategic level between those companies and CMMS companies.
Yeah.
However, I think there's really a lot more that should happen to bring them together at all levels, right? You're absolutely right. Data models are different. Companies who are offering those solutions are different. People who are buying those solutions are different. I mean, I've heard actually, and this is something I bring up a lot when I go to events and just have coffee with folks just to understand, what do you think? I've heard both sides. On one hand, yeah, there's a gap there. And on the other side, there are reasons there's a gap there. And it might be difficult, back to our point of just talking about friction in our industry and fragmentation in our industry. There's reasons why maybe, it will be hard to bring those worlds together. So it's quite interesting is my point. I think there are opportunities. It'll be interesting to watch what happens.
Yeah. I'm just going to continue real quick, Lewis, on the education aspect of it. It's making sure that we're championing that, right? We talk about this here on the call, but getting the word out is is the way I like to put it, and getting the word out to folks to help them understand the importance of data governance and standardization. But people care about, what does it do for me? What does it mean to me? What they're really saying is, what does it mean to my bottom line? How's it going to make my job easier?
Yeah.
That's what we have to be able to explain and help them understand.
Makes sense. So we spoke briefly about future build, and the purpose and the reason as to why you're putting it together. Naturally, there's a lot of events. So for the people listening and anyone that may want to head to Future Built, whether it be this year or maybe in the future, what can they expect attending a show like this? Yeah.
So for one, it's what we've been talking about, is the convergence of the CRE world and the FM world. Future Built, in reference to what I was speaking earlier about the beginning, the life of a facility to the very end of that facility's life cycle, there's so much that actually happens in there that we need to capture data. But if you look from the beginning to the end, there's so much technology that can be used in today's world to make the investment, the construction, the maintenance, the deprecation of that facility, to make it easier. And I think through educating folks, and that's done through all over the world through different organizations. There's a lot of conferences that I've seen that try to display the technology in a way that folks can use it. This is a step further than that. The whole idea behind this is creating a new cultural mindset of the built environment, not only being just CRE by itself or FM by itself or investors by themselves, but bringing all the like-minded folks who understand technology together. CREtech, FM tech, I don't even know if the phrase exists, investor tech. Those folks that are out there building the future of what we're trying to do, hence future built, future of the built environment, bringing those folks together to talk about how, one, data and data infrastructure can be utilized. Two, how you can use digital twinning and AI and RPA and technologies like that in 4D printing for the future of what we want to do. Having showcase of individuals putting these things into practice, and then listening to these folks, and then wrapping the last panel up as a town hall to be able to give folks the opportunity to ask questions and talk a little bit about what their experiences are and what they're seeing. So I think this is the beginning. We talked about we have to be the catalyst, and we're responsible for making a change in what we're doing across our industries. Well, this is where I come back and call myself an assembler of these industries and these ecosystems, and bringing them together in future builds just that first step.
Okay, great. With Connex, you've outlined it there, but how does this show change from or add on to just the mission that you have with Connex and OSCRE?
Yeah. So OSCRE International is a data collaboration, data standardization, and data governance. They've been in technology. Data is a part of technology. It's the core of what technology is. ConnexFM, facility management, historically, those professionals, they're not technologists. They use technology in their work, but they're not data specialists, data analysts, analytics officers. They're not the folks that are actually, they work for organizations that may have those folks in there, but facility managers may be at a disadvantage at times because we've all worked in IT departments for organizations, and we get a certain number of work orders that we have to focus on in projects that are higher priority than others. We may not be focusing on the FM and what they're going through each and every day. So I think the importance of what OSCRE International does, Future Built, coming up here November the 13th, it'll be in Washington, D.C. I think the focus on that is, as we bridge all these things together, is educating the FM, the director of facility management, the senior manager of facility management. Sometimes they may not have a voice as far as how technology is implemented in their organization. And I think if they can learn how to propose those kind of thoughts and ideas and say, hey, I went to Future Built, I'm part of ConnexFM, and there's this Future Built conference, and I heard about how OSCRE International's managing data and how they're using data in the world and how they're saving money here through efficiency and getting a larger return on their investment as if they're buying new scanners and new sensors for different assets that we own in our facility. I think if we can educate them and make that better, they're going to get it. It's going to be a bigger impact for what we're doing.
It sounds like, to follow up, one of the points, you didn't exactly say this, Richard, but one of the points, and I've seen this as well, there are individuals who are operating facilities, who know what they're doing, who realize we need more data, we need to become more data driven, and maybe they aren't exactly sure how to be the champion in their organization to actually push that. And I don't mean push it like be pushy. Exactly. I mean push it, use my expertise, and actually advocate for a position or a direction or a goal. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at as well, that sometimes the other side, like, oh, I'm not crazy for thinking we should do things a different way. I went to this event. I've met a lot of other people who are in the exact same position as I am. Yeah. And we're all realizing we're not crazy. Crazy is probably too strong of a word, but I think you get the idea.
I get exactly what I'm saying. An advocate is a great word. I'd also use the other word, ambassador. They need an ambassador.
That's a great word too.
Yeah. They need someone to come in to be a champion for them, someone to give them the information and the use case or the business case. Hey, here's how this can be used. Here's what you can do with this. And I think that's what's been missing.
So before we dive into quickfire, let me ask you one final question. What does the built world look like in 2030?
Wow, that's a great question. I think there will be a bigger convergence in the worlds that I'm talking about. It won't just be because they've decided to do it. It's because if you haven't taken advantage of technologies and taking care of your data and managing that well and been a good steward in doing that, you're going to get left behind. And because you're getting left behind, you're going to see it through less efficiency, you're going to see it through less revenue generation, and you're going to be forced to catch up. And I think in 2030, what we're talking about is going to happen one way or another. And if it were me listening to this, and if I were in other folks' seats who were managers or leaders of these organizations, I would make sure that I put focus on this and making sure that I'm understanding the future of the built environment. What you just said, what's going to happen here in 2030 in 5 years. Where were we at 5 years ago? Was AI as popular as it was today? There was discussions about it, but it's not where it's at today. Look at how far we've come in 5 years. In 5 more years, it's going to progress even further. And the scary thing is it's progressing faster because of these advanced technologies. So, but I think we'll reach this point, Lewis. I think there's going to be a need for this, for the industries to collaborate in order to survive.
Proudest achievement, I'm thinking at Connex and at OSCRE, but your proudest achievement you can point towards.
The present achievement?
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's, I'm going to say, I got an interesting text from my CEO this morning. I'm going to brag a little bit. And
sure,
he said,
please.
I just want to let you know, I thought about it last night, and after introducing you to an executive at Apple that he had known for many years, I realized how far we have come in the past year and a half since you've been here with this organization and where we're going to go. And I want you to know that the vision is there, that it's been laid out, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the future. So I think just merely bringing in the topic and the concept of AI and digital technologies and championing it, and not bringing it in a way that, I'm slamming it in their faces, but explaining to them this is how it can help. That's been my biggest achievement. Yeah.
Shout out
That's
Richard
great.
and Bill.
Yeah.
You.
Do you have a little one I like to ask? Do you have a favorite building?
JP
in anywhere in the world?
JP Morgan, New York. Come on, that's going to be
new one
everyone.
that just opened.
And I just saw a new building that may be coming. We'll see in Saudi Arabia, where they're going to have a soccer stadium at the top of the skyscraper. I don't know if you guys saw that. You saw that?
I saw that. I'm not sure how.
I'm a big soccer fan, and I haven't seen that.
I'll send you the link, Joe. It'd be an incredible build. I mean, I'm not sure how necessary it is. It'd be pretty cool to go to.
Yeah, well, mixing soccer and buildings. I mean, we should do a rapid fire question about soccer maybe in the future, Lewis. Do you? I would say if you could change one thing about the industry, you've talked a lot about changes and being a catalyst for change, but other points, anything quickly, if you could change another thing about the industry.
The transfer of knowledge and how that's done from the past to the present.
Yeah,
that's what I would change. How can we make that better? Yeah,
that's a great one.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I'm just curious, at your house, any smart home tech that you particularly like, or things that you find yourself using a lot?
I'm a big Amazon Alexa guy, so I have it integrated in everything. I have smart plugs. It really worked great because we had a Christmas tree a few years back, and every night before I went to bed, we had to get up, walk over, hit the switch to turn it off. Smart plug worked great. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I could do it from my phone. If I was laying in my bed and I forgot about it, then I could schedule it. I use Ring I probably have 20 different cameras across several of my properties that can monitor not only the facility, but also the animals that I have. So that's interesting. And the people that come and go.
We have friends that have nature cams and they just put them in the alley because all kinds of animals come. And
Same here. I'm in Texas. We're full of deer, cattle, and horses. So
we used to have smart plugs. I don't use them as much anymore because my son got too into like, can I program this? Like, no, you don't really. And he's 6, and it's like, maybe in a couple years we'll go back to the smart plugs, but they are useful.
They are useful. Yeah.
Well, Richard, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the 13th. If anyone wants to learn more about Future Bill, Connex, OSCRE, we'll put Richard's details in the show notes. But thanks again for joining us, and see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Richard, thank you.